This is meteorologist Brad Winter from Region Weather Live for your fast forecast. And so we're going to step through this pretty quickly. There's a lot more detail on the detailed forecast, and I'll share a link with that at the end. It's also below on the description here. But we're starting off here Thursday evening right around 7 p.m. where we can see the rain, freezing rain and snow already beginning across Minnesota, and the snow stretching across North Dakota. And the band of snow continues across North Dakota, northern Minnesota. Now, one area of concern is going to be through the evening and overnight hours is this area of freezing rain. It looks like it's really going to pick up throughout that time frame. There might even be some convection within this at that point where we might even hear a rumble of thunder. So keep that in mind. Boy, we could be dumping a lot of freezing rain through the overnight hours between Duluth and Minneapolis, across Alexandria and through the Lakes country. Really, as there's going to be plenty of freezing rain occurring throughout that time. And the other thing that this model in particular really doesn't show, but is going to be the possibility at least of a few thunderstorms developing across southeast South Dakota, southern parts of Minnesota. Now, there could be some hail, some small hail with this, and there might be an isolated cell that just reaches that severe level of 1-inch diameter hail through the overnight hours, kind of in between probably 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m. or so is really when we're looking at that to occur possibly. And again, that snow continues across the north. We've got the rain into southern parts of Minnesota. We've got the freezing rain across central Minnesota. And then once we get into the early morning hours of Friday morning, right around 7 a.m., here comes that next system that really begins to ramp up. We've got the storm system that finally exits out. We've got the snow that really ramps up across central parts of South Dakota. We've got this freezing rain and sleet that continues on across central parts of Minnesota and then also across eastern portions of South Dakota. And then we watch this warm front that's connected with this low pressure system. If this makes it far enough north and allows enough moisture to kind of leak into the far southeastern portions of Minnesota, man, we're going to have the potential of seeing some severe weather, as I'll show you here in a bit as we get into the afternoon hours. So continuing on closer to about noon time frame, we can see again that rain down in the south, the snow across portions of South Dakota, southern parts of North Dakota, and then reaching in through parts of Minnesota as well. And then the freezing rain and sleet continues across central parts of Minnesota. And then we get into the afternoon hours and look at these storms begin to fire up across Iowa and then eventually push into southeastern parts of Minnesota. Now, some of these, again, could be severe. They could be tornadic. They could have some strong winds, and they are going to be trucking. They are going to be moving east-northeast at about 60 miles per hour, perhaps even faster. So if these storms do develop to your west, keep that in mind that this is going to be on you quickly. So if they do become tornadic, man, you're not going to have a lot of time to prepare. And so ultimately, we're going to be looking in between that 4 to 7 p.m. time frame when these storms roll through the far southeast. Now, after probably about 7 p.m., we really begin to transition to everybody into the winter portion of this as this exits out, and we continue to get this cold air wrap back in around the backside of this. So after 7 p.m., we look at that snow to develop, and then the southeastern portions of the state, those areas that possibly could get hit with some severe weather. Look beyond 10 p.m. how the snow, possibly heavy at times, wraps into that area, maybe even some sleet associated with it. We've got the stronger winds also at this point that are going to be moving through the region. So as we get into the late afternoon, evening, and nighttime hours, late Friday into Friday night, man, some of these roads are going to get bad. We're going to reduce visibilities. We're going to see some slippery conditions. It's going to get nasty across the eastern parts of South Dakota, southern Minnesota throughout Friday afternoon and then into Friday night. Now, the good thing is, as we continue this along, as we get into a Saturday morning about 6, 7 a.m., most of that snow has now moved out of the area. We have some stronger winds continuing down in the far southeast parts of Minnesota still. So we're still really going to be looking at the reduced visibilities and the slippery road conditions. But that will improve as we go throughout the morning. And I think by noon time frame, pretty much everybody's going to be looking at much improved conditions. So here's the snow accumulations expected for Thursday afternoon through Thursday night. We've got just a sliver moving across North Dakota and northern parts of Minnesota. And again, I'll have a lot of these graphics up on my social media site, so make sure you check in on there. Freezing rain and sleet really from Thursday afternoon continuing through Friday. Most of this area really occurs Thursday evening through Thursday night is when most of this occurs, but it continues on through Friday as well, and just kind of adds some insult to injury there. This appendage down to the southwest into South Dakota here, most of that happens Friday morning and into early Friday afternoon when that system gets rolling right before the snow moves in. And then this is the early forecast for that system from Friday through Friday night as far as the snowfall goes. So some of this is going to need to be adjusted, and we'll kind of fine tune it, but it looks like the main area at this point is going to be across central parts of South Dakota up into northeast South Dakota, with this, of course, little appendage here in west central Minnesota. And then also across east central Minnesota, there could be a little area that some higher amounts there just north of the Twin Cities, where we're looking for an area of 3 to 7 inches, including down in the southeastern parts of Minnesota. And of course, that's going to start to occur late Friday night. And so we're really going to pick up most of this snow really, really quickly as we go through the overnight hours Friday night. And of course, I'll just say that the models really aren't agreeing a whole ton on this. So a lot of this, like I said, is going to need to be adjusted a little bit here and there. So hopefully by tomorrow, keep an eye once again on the social media sites, and I'll have updates, particularly on Facebook. Then we're also monitoring the possibility of a strong winter storm coming from Monday night roughly into maybe Thursday morning. Timing, location, all that stuff yet to be determined because it's a ways out there. But just keep that in mind as we go into the early part of next week. And for more details on these storms, on this particular storm system, as we wrap up this week, make sure you check out the link below and you'll get much more detail. And also make sure you subscribe, because as the severe weather strikes, I'll be on live. So for Regional Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody, have a good day.